Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1 for this, our weekly news video. We have a lot to talk about this week. Just looking at some of the headlines we're going to discuss. Firstly, it is the pressure mounting up on Sergio Perez and the possibility that he could lose his seat despite signing a brand new contract. We have got a look at some upgrades coming for both Mercedes and Aston Martin. We have a new insight into Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari contract. The new sprint calendar has been released, and also we're going to have a look at the rumours surrounding the Williams second seat for 2025. Before all that though, remember to like and subscribe, and of course a big shout out to our members Dakota and the Joyous James. If you want to join them and becoming a member, there is a link in the description. And also yesterday a video came out on this channel which I've been working on for months. Every Fernando Alonso teammate ranked from worst to best. A little peek behind the curtain here as for how long that video has been in the works. I started making that video, stopped halfway through, wrote, recorded, edited and published the Tony Stark Monaco Iron Man 2 video, then went back to the Fernando Alonso video and finished it. So it's been in the works now for ages, and it's finally out, and it seems to be doing quite well. People seem to enjoy it, so thank you very much for that. If you haven't seen it, you can watch it after this one. But let's get into the news. Firstly, surrounding Sergio Perez, a lot of stuff coming out here. Now, of course, back in Canada, it was announced that he had got a 2-year contract extension, which at the time I was quite questionable over because I said, oh yeah, Sergio's done okay, but why don't we learn from history and the fact that every time we go to the European leg of the season, Sergio's performances massively fall off a cliff. And you'll never guess what, Sergio's performances massively have fallen off a cliff, to the point that in the last 6 races, he has scored less points than Nico Hülkenberg has scored in the last 2 races. So, a bad time for Sergio Perez at the minute, and it could get worse. So Helmut Marko has confirmed that Sergio Perez could lose his seat this summer, saying that the team will evaluate his performances after Belgium, so that will be in the summer break. This also goes alongside Liam Lawson having several tests in the next few weeks. His first test was earlier this week in the Red Bull 2024 car. He is also scheduled for tests in the 2022 AlphaTauri car in late July. And Helmut Marko came out again and has said that Liam Lawson will be given an opportunity with Red Bull. So all of this together is really looking like it's not going to end well for Sergio Perez here. But at the exact same time, I'm not sure how it's going to go down. So I would not be surprised at all if when we come back from the summer break, Sergio Perez is not in the Red Bull. I think the clearest choice is to put Daniel Ricciardo in there for the second half of the year, because he's a safe pair of hands. They kind of know what they're doing with Ricciardo, and also it's a testing ground. They can use it for the second half of the year to see how Ricciardo does in the Red Bull, and then make the decision for 2025, yes or no, on Ricciardo. Where Lawson comes into this, I'm not too sure. It sounds to me like for 2025. The Racing Bulls lineup will be Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson. But then that leaves up in the air Sergio Perez and Daniel Ricciardo. And it sounds like realistically one of them is gone, but they don't know which one yet. So I think after the summer break we'll have Ricciardo in the Red Bull, Perez in the Racing Bull, and it'll be all on Ricciardo. If Ricciardo can do better than Perez did, he gets the seat for 2025. If he can't, it goes back to Perez. That's how I kind of see it at the minute, which is a very weird situation to be in, where Perez could get a contract extension, then lose his seat mid-season, then get his seat back in 2025. It's very strange. It's also very strange that Red Bull Racing, who are this team who for years have had the issue of having too many good drivers, are now at the point where their second seat seemingly is a choice between Sergio Perez and Daniel Ricciardo, two of the drivers who have been massively inconsistent over the last, 3 years? So it's such a weird position they're in. And the weirdest thing of all is that it seems like Yuki Tsunoda is never in these discussions. Yuki's been doing quite well over the last couple of years, but it seems like no matter how well he does, he's not in these conversations to be in the second Red Bull seat. And also, they've got so many good young drivers. What is going on here? We go back a few years ago. No, well, not a few years ago. A long time ago, when you had the likes of, your Buemi and Hartley and all these kind of guys who were good, but, they weren't the level of Red Bull, because Red Bull's level was so high. The Red Bull level has dropped massively over the last few years. Of course, you've got Max Verstappen, but then there's everyone else. I guess, Sainz is right there. He hasn't signed yet. Go for Carlos Sainz. That's all I'm saying. I've seen some people say that maybe they're going to want to pay out Nico Hülkenberg's Audi contract, which sounds ridiculous, because he's just signed it, and he hasn't even started yet, and it's Audi, so it's going to be a hell of a lot of money. The idea that Red Bull would want to pay out that contract entirely to get Hülkenberg into the seat, that's not going to happen. But, yeah, let me know, what do you think the lineup will be for Red Bull and Racing Bulls next year? Personally, I'm going Verstappen, Ricciardo for Red Bull, Yuki, Lawson, Racing Bull. No idea where Perez fits into this at this point, because realistically, Red Bull have screwed him here by giving him that contract extension even though they weren't confident about him, which is just so stupid. I know there was that clip of Horner being like, well, we thought if we gave him the contract extension, he would get better. Like, no, that's not how it works. What the hell is going on there? Right, let's move on. Let's talk about Mercedes. Now, Mercedes coming off back-to-back wins here. Of course, Russell in Austria and Hamilton in Britain. The first time Mercedes had back-to-back wins since 2021. And apparently, things can only get better for the Mercedes team. They'll be bringing big upgrades to both Hungary and Belgium. This is part of the non-stop development of the W15 during the second half of the season. The team at Brackley is very confident about the W15's trajectory. Mercedes apparently now understand how their car works and how to unlock more performance from it. So yeah, big news if you're a Mercedes fan. Things are finally going well. The team at Mercedes finally understand how their car works, and you can see it's definitely working here. They have massively closed the gap over the last few races. We had the whole thing of it was Ferrari and Red Bull at the start, then it was Red Bull and McLaren, and now it seems to be a three-way battle, Red Bull, McLaren, Mercedes. Mercedes have definitely got better, and if they can get even better than this, I mean, this is huge for them. I don't think it's not going to put them into a title battle for this year, but next year, definitely. If they can get on top of things, next year could be a Mercedes year yet again. And you've got to worry about Lewis Hamilton. Well, not worry, but you've got to think about Lewis Hamilton at this point. Sign that Ferrari contract very early on, because Mercedes were absolutely nowhere. And now it seems like they could be one of the favourites for the title next year yet again. More on Hamilton's Ferrari contract in a little bit. Also, the Hungarian GP could be a huge race for Aston Martin as they receive one of their first big upgrade packages of the year at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Apparently, this upgrade package, I'll say that again. This upgrade package could define their entire season as to where they're going to go. At the minute, Aston a bit in the middle of nowhere. Sometimes, they score nothing. Sometimes they're in the lower of the half of the top 10. Really, just nothing for Aston at the minute. But this one could be a big one for Aston. But if you look at Aston's history of upgrades, it's got to be said, they don't go well. I can't remember the last time Aston brought an upgrade and they went quicker. So a lot of eyes on Aston Martin at Hungary to see what they can do. Moving on from that, though, Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari contract, having a little more insight into this now, because Frederick Vasseur has confirmed that it is a 3-year contract with Ferrari. Now, initially, I thought it was a 2-year deal, but no, it is 3 years. Vasseur had this to say. He said he had to make a choice. Where do I have the greatest chance of winning the world title in 25, 26 and 27? And Hamilton said Ferrari. We have good people at Ferrari, but I want to strengthen them. Lewis was an important symbol because he sends a positive message to the paddock for the future of the team. So Frederick Vasseur hinting there that it might be a 2+1. So a deal for 2025, 2026 and 2027 for Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari. You know, that's one of the huge questions of the future, isn't it? I think that's something everyone's very excited to see. How will that go down? But Ferrari have definitely got to turn their ship around at this point, because it is definitely heading the wrong way. Although I did see someone online speculating that Ferrari have basically made this car this year especially for 2 races. Firstly, the Monaco Grand Prix, and then secondly, Monza. So we'll have to wait and see if that is true. Have they designed this car so especially that Leclerc could win Monza, and then we have Leclerc could win Monaco, and then we have a Ferrari win at Monza? We'll wait and see. Let's talk about sprint races now. Highly controversial sprint races. Some people love them, some people hate them. I kind of fall in the middle. You know, I quite like a sprint race weekend because it's more on-track action than a practice session, but also some of them are incredibly boring. We've had the calendar for next year, though. The same amount of sprint races, so we had 6 this year, we'll have 6 next year, but there is a little bit of a difference. So we have, for next year, it'll be Shanghai, Miami, Spa, Austin, Brazil, and Qatar. The only difference there is this year we had Austria, and next year we'll have Spa. We did have Spa as a sprint race last year, and I guess they've swapped them around. You know, fine, whatever, okay. I mean, I think Austria is possibly the best sprint races we've had. If you look over the past few years, I think, you know, there's been lots of bad sprint races, but I don't think any of them have fallen in Austria. So to get rid of the Austrian track, I think is quite a surprise, especially to replace it with Spa, which, if I remember correctly, wasn't a great sprint race, mainly because the lap is so long that, like, what's the point? But there you go. Spa is back on the sprint race calendar. Finally now, the final news story to talk about surrounds Williams, and Valtteri Bottas apparently is inching ever closer to that Williams move. Now this goes back to something we've spoken about a lot, and it's Carlos Sainz and how he's basically just waiting on this contract. He has all the contracts lined out in front of him, and until he is signing one, he's waiting and waiting and waiting, and everyone else is getting impatient now. And James Vowles, who a few weeks ago in Canada was singing the praises of Carlos Sainz and going basically, yep, it's signed, sealed, delivered, he's joining the team, we're having a great time. At this point now he's going, I've waited so long for this guy, I can't be bothered anymore. And apparently his second choice is Valtteri Bottas, which is kind of news we were aware of anyway. And at this point he's getting so impatient around Sainz that he might just go, right, Bottas, you're in. Personally, I think Bottas to Williams is a great move. I think it works really well, especially with his history with James Vowles in the Mercedes team, that I think they should have gone for that anyway. I don't think Sainz and Williams is necessarily a great move. I see Sainz really going to that Sauber/Audi team, so we'll see how that one goes. But like I said, I think I said it a couple of weeks ago, as soon as Sainz signs his contract, everyone else can sign their contract, because it seems like every team on the grid apart from Ferrari have offered Sainz a contract, and everyone now is just waiting to see where he goes so they can make their move, and it sounds like some of them are getting impatient, so we'll wait and see how that one goes. But personally, I'd love to see Valtteri Bottas in the Williams. There we go, that's it, a quick one, less than 15 minutes on the news video. I've never seen such a thing. So I'll let you go. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We're back next weekend for all things Hungarian Grand Prix. Make sure to check out that Fernando Alonso's teammate video ranked from worst to best. And until then, I will see you next time. Have a good one. Goodbye.